Imagine you waking up tomorrow morning and discovering that every decision that you actually made was never really yours. It was never yours. Your career you pursue, the money you chase, the relationship you tolerate, the dreams that you have abandoned, every of your definition of success. Imagining discovering that someone else quietly programmed those decisions long before you were born and gave you all this that you never questioned them. Would you know? Or would you continue living exactly as you are now? Most people really believe that they make their own choices. But what if your choices are the only visible outcome of something much deeper? What if every decision is simply revealing an invisible compass already directing your life? Because whether you realize it or not, every human being is following a compass. The question is, who gave it to you? Some people spend their entire life really climbing the ladder only to discover that it was leaning against the wrong wall. Others actually achieve everything they have ever wanted only to realize that they have not truly wanted those things. How does that happen? How can intelligent people build successful lives that still leaves them empty? The answer is surprisingly simple. They build their lives around values that they never intentionally chose. And if you don't define your values, someone else will. Welcome to this very wonderful episode today, and we are talking about something wonderful, that if you don't define your values, someone else will. Someone else will. Someone else will. Someone else will. Listen, every building begins long before construction, before the foundation, before the walls, before the roof. Someone imagined it. Someone drew a blueprint. Someone decided what the building will become. Life works exactly the same way also too. Long before people see your success, your failures, your relationship, your leadership, or your legacy, something invisible has already begun shaping all of them. That invisible force is your value. Most people actually spend their years trying to, change their behaviors, but few stop to ask what produced the behavior in the first place. What pruned these very branches? Why ignoring the roots? We prune the branches, but we ignore the roots. We chase those outcomes, but we actually, without understanding the belief producing them. Today we are going to go beneath the surface, because the quality of your life is really determined by the goals you set. It is determined actually by the values beneath those goals. Now, this is a question I want you to ask. This question that changes everything. As children, people often ask us, what do you want to be when you grow up? Some will say, I want to be a doctor, I want to be an engineer, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to be a musician, I want to be a leader. That is an interesting question actually, but perhaps it isn't the most important one. A far more important question is this: who are you becoming while pursuing those dreams? Because really becoming always comes before achievement. A dishonest millionaire is still dishonest. A selfish leader is still selfish. An insecure celebrity is still insecure. Success does not automatically improve your character. It amplifies your character. The life you build will always reflect the values you carry. That's the thing you must know. Let us see a story that I have for you today. Let's travel back, okay? Let's travel back. Not to last year, not to childhood, but to the very beginning. When you entered this world, you didn't choose your family, okay? Remember, you didn't choose your culture. You didn't choose your language. You didn't choose your tradition. You didn't choose your school. You even didn't choose your environment. Before you could even speak, people were already teaching you what matters to them, what they felt is the right thing. Some lessons were spoken. Others were silently demonstrated. You watched how conflicts were handled. You watched how money was being discussed. You watched how success was celebrated. You watched how failure was being treated. You watched even who received admiration. You watched many of these things. You watched who received admiration also too. You watched what people fear. You actually watched what they sacrificed for without realizing it. Your first education was observation. Long before really we learn information, we absorbed values. That's the truth. And this continuous throughout our life. The school will also teach us what deserves achievement. Media teaches us what actually deserves attention. Society teaches us what deserves really applaud. This advertising teaches us what deserves desires. The algorithm in the social media and so on teaches us what deserves our time. But friends teach us what deserves our loyalty. So every environment is constantly answering one question: what matters most? That answer eventually becomes the compass by which people live. Now, the problem is not every compass points towards flourishing. Let me tell you about another story about this invisible architecture. Imagine you entering two houses, alright? The first is beautiful, elegant furnitures, perfect lighting, expensive decoration. Everything appears so impressive, but beneath the surface, the foundation is cracked. Now, let's look at the second house that looks so simpler, nothing extraordinary, yet beneath it lies a foundation built to withstand earthquakes. Which house would you rather live in? Most people will choose like the first one, which it looks so beautiful. They invest enormous effort into appearance while neglecting the foundations. But life has a way of treating or testing foundations. Pressure will expose them. Okay, your success you're talking about exposes them. Failures expose them. Relationship expose them. Leadership expose them. When life shakes you, the question, what holds you together? That's the question you need to ask yourself. Is it your talent? Is it your education? Is it your income? Or your values? Now, see, because values are the foundation beneath everything people eventually see. You have to choose value because that is what is the foundation beneath everything that people sees. Now, let us see what are values. Let us look at that very well. People really often confuse values with these preferences. You must know that they are not the same. A preference will say, I enjoy coffee, but a value will tell you, I choose honesty even when lying would benefit me. That is value. So preferences describe what you like, but value describe what guides your life. Another example is that preferences changes with seasons, but value remains steady throughout storms. Another thing is that preferences makes life comfortable, but values makes life meaningful. So values are not merely opinions. They are deeply held conviction that quietly influence every important decision in your life. They determine what you will pursue. Okay? What you will protect, what you will sacrifice, what you will refuse. Whether you realize it or not, every important decision you have made pass through your values first. Is there any invisible compass? Let's talk about that. Let's imagine that in the middle of a dense forest, the sky is covered. This is a story of two persons. There are no roads. There are no signs, no familiar landmark. Everything looks the same without direction. Every path appears equally possible. Now imagine, let's say two persons, they go into this forest now. They place a compass into their hands. One did not use the compass, but the other one, the compass was placed in his hands. No. Now the question is, has the forest disappeared? No. Has every obstacle disappeared? No. Has uncertainty ended? No. What really changed? Direction. So the other one has direction. The other one left the direction, but the other one has direction. So the compass doesn't really remove difficulties. It just removes confusion. It's exactly what value does. They don't really eliminate these life storms. They help you navigate through them. When everybody else is compromising, your values remind you who you are. When fear demands retreat, your values remind you what matters most. When success tempts you to abandon your principles, you understand what I'm trying to say, when sometimes you say, let me just do this, your values becomes your anchor. The greatest gift of clear values is not sanctity, it is consistency. It is consistency. Now, listen carefully. Let's see the story. Let's see. Yes, where the story becomes even more fascinating. If values are this important, okay, let's see this. Why do few people ever define them? Why is it that few people ever define them? Why do intelligent people spend decades pursuing goals that doesn't truly satisfy them? Why do successful people often feel lost after achieving everything they thought they wanted? Now, why do some people remain deeply fulfilled even without wealth, fame, or recognition? These are things you need to begin to ask yourself. The question has almost nothing to do with talent. It has almost nothing to do with intelligence. It has everything to do with an invisible force hiding beneath every human's life. And once you see it, let me tell you the truth, you will never look at decision the same way again. Because you must understand that we need to understand this hidden influence on human behavior. You understand how, quietly, when you see this, you see how quietly society writes the value by which most people live, and how you can also intentionally choose that different path. Listen very carefully. The greatest influence on life is rarely what happens to you. It is the meaning you assign to what happens and the values from which that meaning is interpreted. Let me ask you a question. What taught you, or who taught you what success looked like? I want you to take a moment. Don't answer too quickly, okay? Now, who decide that a large house represents achievement? These are the things that we see in the world today. Who has really written it down, or who decided that being consistently busy is a badge of honor? Who actually decided that popularity equals significance? Who decided that having more followers on social media means having more influence? Who is that person that decided that your worth should be measured by your salary? Listen very carefully. Most people have never stopped long enough to ask these questions. Not because they are not intelligent, but because the deepest beliefs are often the least examined. Just like a fish, okay? A fish that never questions waters because they have never known anything else will really question the values we have been immersed in since childhood. We simply assume they are true. But assumptions are dangerous when they shape an entire life. Because that unquestioned value can quietly become an unquestioned destiny. Let me give you a story of two brothers. Again, I'm just bringing up some things for you to understand. Two brothers growing up in the same home. Both witness everything. Their parents, they attend the same school, they eat the same food. Yet, years later, they couldn't be more different. One believed that success means accumulating wealth regardless of the cost. The other believed that success means creating values and serving others with excellency. Now, one cut corner because result matters more than integrity. The other refuses to compromise, even when honesty costs him opportunity. Listen, the same childhood, the same environment they came from, but different values. What changed in their life is different values, and that brought about different lives. Now you will say, what really happened? At some point, each of them, or each of these brothers, began interpreting the world differently. They didn't simply inherit really values. They chose which value to embrace. That choice changed everything for them. Now, because your future is not really determined only by what happens to you. It is profoundly shaped by what you decide is worth living for. One of the greatest misconceptions about value is believing they exist in isolation. I'm telling you the truth. But they don't. Every day, value compete for the first place in your life. Comfort compete with discipline. Approval compete with authenticity. Pleasure compete with purpose. Fear compete with courage. Greed compete with generosity. This conveniency competes with integrity. But every significant decision is ultimately a competition between values. Take note of that. Every significant decision is ultimately a competition between values. When someone lies to protect their reputation, reputation temporarily becomes more valuable than honesty. When someone keeps a difficult promise despite personal cost, integrity becomes more valuable than comfort. The question is actually never whether you have values. Everybody does. The real question is, which value are you winning? Or which values are winning in your life? Sorry. Which values are winning in your life? So, whether you realize it or not, every day someone is trying to shape the way you think. Advertisement does that. Simply sell products to you. They sell identity. If you don't own this, you will finally different things. Social media doesn't simply just distribute content. What they do is that they reward your attention. This news that you see today doesn't really simply report events. They influence your perception about things. Entertainment really don't merely just tell stories. It normalizes behavior. That is the truth. That's what you should know. This culture doesn't really force you to adopt its value. You simply just repeat them until they feel normal to you. They don't force you. They just repeat them before it becomes normal, and you feel very relaxed with it. And this thing is repeated often enough. It's repeated often enough to make you feel that it's true. This is why formation is never accidental. If you are not intentionally shaping your life, your environment will gladly do it for you. Your environment will gladly do it for you. Now think about your phone. Every day an algorithm quietly studies your attention. It notices what you pause on, what you like, what you search for, what you ignore. Over time, it begins feeding you more of what has already captured your attention. And eventually your digital will start reflecting your previous choices. Now see, your mind is that your mind functions in a surprising similar way. Whatever you repeatedly value, your attention follows. And where your attention goes, habits grows. Where your habit grows, character is formed. And character eventually becomes destiny. So, you see, the greatest algorithm shaping your future is not inside your phone. It is inside your heart. It is inside your heart. Now, see, yes, sometimes people really, really talk about all these things very well. They talk about it. That's the truth. They really talk about it. Success is not always evidence that you are heading in the right direction. I repeat again, success is not always evidence that you are heading in the right direction. Sometimes it's evidence that you are becoming very good at pursuing the wrong things. A person can become really incredibly successful while becoming increasingly empty. I have noticed that. I have seen that. History has been filled with individuals who achieved fame but lost themselves, who accumulated wealth but sacrificed their peace, who built empires but destroyed families, who gained influence but lost integrity. Achievement really without alignment eventually produces regret. The tragedy isn't failing to achieve your dreams. The tragedy is achieving dreams that were never worthy of your life. Achieving dreams that were never worthy of your life. Now, imagine you setting out on a journey from Nairobi to Kigali. You had enough gasoline, a reliable vehicle, a very detailed map, and you are disciplined, committed, focused. Then you drive for hours with remarkable determination. But there is one problem. You began by facing the wrong direction. The harder you drive, the farther you travel, the more efficient you move. The farther away you become from your intended destination, life begin to look so unease or without direction to you. And life works exactly that same way. Effort cannot really compensate for wrong direction. You are going the wrong direction because you can't be driving from Nairobi to Kigali or from Lagos, Nigeria to Kigali. You are going to have problems. You have all these things. You are committed, focused, but you are driving the wrong direction. You are driving the wrong direction. See, discipline cannot really compensate for confused values. Your productivity cannot really compensate for a misplaced compass. The most dangerous thing I've seen in life is not a lazy life. It is an efficient life moving towards the wrong direction. I want you now to pause for a moment. I've been saying something, just pause for a moment. Imagine this now, that your calendar appears on the screen for the entire world to see. And next to it appears your bank account or your bank statement. Then your internet history. Then a record of every conversation you've had over the last month. No explanation, no excuses, only evidences. What value would your life reveal? Not the values you admire, not the values you post about, not the values you hope to live one day. The values you are actually living. Because really, values are never proven by intentions. They are revealed by patterns. By pattern. I want us to have a moment of honesty. And this is where the transformation is going to begin. This is where transformation is going to begin. Not with your guilt, not with shame, but with honesty. Just be honest with yourself. Because every meaningful change begins with someone that has ready to have that courage to say, this is where I am, not where I pretended to be, not where I wish I were, but where I truly am. You cannot really intentionally become someone new while refusing to honestly examine who you are today. Awareness is the doorway to transformation. I usually say this in all my videos. Awareness is the doorway to transformation. And honesty is the courage to walk through it. So, listen. If values shape your decisions, let's look at that. If culture is constantly trying to shape your values, and if your future is quietly being formed by what you repeatedly choose, then one question remains: how do you intentionally build values that can withstand success, failures, pressures, temptation, and time? But because not every value is really equally strong, some collapse under pressure. Others become the foundation for extraordinary lives. Okay, listen to this. You do not rise to the level of your dreams. You gradually become the level of your values. Imagine you standing before two doors. The first door is wide, brightly lit, crowded. Everyone seems to be walking through it. But the second door is narrow, quiet, almost unnoticed. Very few choose it. The strange thing you see is that both groups believe they are pursuing a meaningful life. But 20 years later, one group is exhausted by a life they never intentionally chose. The other has become the kind of person they once admire. Now, what separates them? It's not intelligence, it's not opportunity, it's not luck. It was the value they chose to live by. Because every life is built, every life is built one decision at a time. Every decision is shaped by something deeper than emotion. It is shaped by conviction. I would like to give us some principles that we are going to use. Some principles that are going to help you. The first principle is that character is built long before it is revealed. Character is built long before it is revealed. So, you see, many people believe that character is just created during difficult moments. It is not. Difficult moments simply reveals what you have already been built with. Think about a tree. You don't discover the strength of its root once on a calm summer afternoon. You discover them during a storm. When the wind becomes violent, when the rain refuses to stop, when everything around it begins to shake, the root finally becomes visible. Not because you can see them, but because of what remains standing. So human character works in that way also too. Pressure doesn't create integrity. Pressure reveals it. Failure doesn't create humility. Failure reveals it. Success doesn't really create pride. Success reveals it. Temptation doesn't really create this dishonesty. Temptation reveals whether honesty was ever truly a value in your life. No, listen, the crisis is never the architecture. It is only the examiner. It is only the examiner. I want you to think about this. Think about the last sessions of pressures in your life. What surfaced? Was it patience or anger? Was it faithfulness or compromise? Was it courage or fear? Whatever appears wasn't simply a reaction. It is the evidence of the value that you are living with beneath the surface. Let's go to the second principle. Every decision is just understand this principle, that every decision is casting a vote for your future self. Every decision you make today. People really often imagine transformation as one dramatic event. In real, when it happened just like that, it just happened. But in reality, it's usually thousands of ordinary, simple decisions. No one really becomes trustworthy overnight. No one becomes a wise person in a single afternoon. No one becomes a compassionate person because of one emotional moment. Character is accumulated. Take note of that. Every decision casts another vote. Imagine someone learning a musical instrument. The audience applaud the performance, but they never witnessed the countless quiet mornings, that repeated mistake, that discipline practice, the visible commitment. The performance is simply the visible result of invisible consistency. So life is no different. That's the truth. Every time you choose honesty, you strengthen honesty. Every time you choose discipline, the same thing, you strengthen discipline. So discipline becomes easier for you. Every time you choose courage, courage becomes so powerful. So, fear will lose that little power that little of its authority. Fear will lose because you chose courage. So the person you actually will become tomorrow is quietly shaped by the decision you made today. Not occasionally, but daily. Oh, this guy doesn't say the truth. It's because he has been a liar from beginning. Now I want you to reflect on this. Don't ask this question, what decision should I make? Instead, I want you to ask this question, who will this decision help me become? That question is going to change everything. Let's go to principle 3. Borrowed values can never produce an authentic life. People are borrowing values. Children naturally borrow values. Adults, they borrow values from people. And perhaps, let's say you grow up believing that success means never resting, or that emotions are weakness, or that asking for help is failure, or that your worth depends on how much you achieve. Those beliefs may have served your life. It's just your story, someone else's story that they are giving to you. But they are never worthy of yours. Imagine an architect receiving the blueprint for a hospital. Instead of building the hospital, he accidentally used the blueprint for a shopping mall. He may work diligently. He may hire skilled workers. He may even use excellent materials, but no amount of effort can produce the right building from the wrong blueprint. So that is how many people are building their lives. Their life is beautiful, but they are using someone else's blueprint. And you cannot really understand why fulfillment never arrives. So being authentic begins when you courageously ask yourself, which of my value have I chosen and which has simply been inherited? Take note of that. Reflect on that. The fourth principle is that integrity is wholeness. The word integrity is mostly misunderstood. Many think that it's simply being honest. But integrity is much deeper than telling the truth. Integrity means wholeness, means alignment. It is when when your beliefs, your values, your words, your private life, and your public life all point in the same direction. That is when we talk that you have a great integrity. Now, imagine you riding a bicycle. If the front wheel points northwards or north pole, while the back pushes to the east, your movement becomes exhausting. Not because the bicycle lacks power, but because there's no alignment. So many people live exactly that same way. They are something else in their family. and they say something else. For example, they say family matters, but they never spend time with their family. They say health matters, but they neglect their body. They even say integrity matters, but compromise when no one is watching. So the exhaust, them being exhausted, they feel it's just simply because life is difficult. No, it's not because life is difficult. It is because misalignment always consumes energy. So, integrity has really simplifies life. When your values are clear, it simplifies life because many decisions becomes obvious. It becomes very obvious. Let's see what will be. Let's understand the freedom that you get from a decided life. One of the greatest gifts that you can give yourself is to decide in advance. People who wait until temptation arrives to decide whether they should go this way or they go that way, they always have great problems. They wait for long. But great character is built before the test, not during it. A pilot doesn't learn how to fly during turbulence. A firefighter doesn't begin training after the building is burning or the building is on fire. No. Preparation always precedes pressure. The same is true for really value. I will be truthful. When you decide already that you'll be truthful, you will be compassionate, you will pursue excellence, you will honor your commitment, then difficult moments becomes moment of application rather than confusion. That's the truth. Your values become pre-made decisions, and pre-made decisions reduce unnecessary internal conflicts in your life. This is something very remarkable that we're going to look at. Something very remarkable. Your value never affects only you. Your value never affects only you. Just listen to me very well. Every parent passes value to children. Every teacher passes value to students. Every leader passes value to team. Every entrepreneur passes value into culture. And every friend influences another friend, whether intentionally or unintentionally. And every human being is teaching someone how to live, not primarily through words, but through example. So your life is always preaching. The question is, what sermon is he preaching? What sermon is he preaching? And see, if values are so powerful, how do you actually identify the right ones? How do you separate timeline principles from temporary cultural trends? How do we create a personal compass that remains steady when success, failure, criticism, and uncertainty all pull us into different directions? Take note of this. Now, the greatest danger I've seen in life is not that you will choose the wrong life. It is that you will never consciously choose one at all. Let's go into this as we also explain more and go deeper. There comes really a moment in every meaningful person's life that you realize something profound. I've spent years making decisions, but I've never decided who will make them. That sounds strange, but think about it. Most people decide where they will work, where they will live, who they will marry, what they will study, how they will spend money, but very few ever stop to decide the principles that govern every one of those decisions. They have planned their careers without planning their character. They have designed their lifestyle without designing their inner life, and eventually they discover a painful truth. A successful life being built on confused values eventually really makes people to feel this emptiness. Because really, success is a terrible master. It is only even I'm saying these things with passion. It was only ever meant to be a servant. Character must always remain the master, not success. Imagine you preparing for an expedition across an unfamiliar continent. You have maps, you have supplies, you have vehicles, you have experience. But before anyone hands you a map, they place a compass in your hands. Why? Why is that? Because really, map can change. Roads can close. Storms can force new routes. Unexpected obstacles can appear. But if your compass remains true, you can always find your direction. And so that is how life works. It works in the same way. Your career may change, your income may change, your relationship may change, technology will certainly change. Culture will continue changing. But if your values remain grounded in timeless principle, you will never lose yourself while adapting to changes. So the goal is not to build this kind of predictable life. The goal is to build a dependable. The goal is for you to build yourself to become a dependable person. Do you know that your calendar reveals your value better than your words? Do you know that? Let's try and understand that. People often ask, how do I discover my values? Here's one of the simplest answers I will give to you. Look at your life, not your intentions, just your life. Because every person has two sets of values: the values you profess and the values that you practice. The first are spoken, the second are visible. If someone says, my family remains everything, but they never create time for family, their calendar has spoken louder than their words. If someone says that I value learning, yet they haven't read a meaningful book in years, their habits are just shown that it reveals something different. If someone says that I want excellent health, but they neglect their sleep, nutrition, or movement, they don't do exercise, then their daily choice has told a story. So your schedules, your spending, your conversation, your attention, your habits, together they form this autobiography of you. Not the ones you write on something. Not the ones you hope to become, but of what you hope. But some people don't hope I'll become this. Not that one, but we are talking of the one that you are becoming now. The one you are becoming now. And that is the reason why I say one of the greatest lies our culture tells us is that extraordinary lives are built through extraordinary moments. It's a lie. History suggests something very, very different. Extraordinary lives are really usually built through ordinary decisions repeatedly with extraordinary consistency. They are repeated with extraordinary consistency. A bridge is not held together by one massive beam. It is strengthened by thousands of careful placed components. Likewise, your character isn't built by one dramatic decision. It is built every morning, every conversation, every promise you kept, every apology offer, every temptation resisted, every act of kindness that no one noticed. Never underestimate those small choices that you make. Small choices becomes your habits. Habits actually, they form your character, and your character forms your destiny. I want you to ask yourself this question. I want you to ask yourself this question. Whenever you face an important decision, just pause and ask yourself these 5 questions. Does this align with the person I want to become? Does this align with the person I want to become? Not simply what do I want, but I'm saying what kind of human being does this choice produce? Because becoming matters more than arriving. The second question is, will this still matter to me 10 years from now? Because culture will actually reward urgency. Wisdom will value significance. Many decisions will feel enormous today, yet becomes irrelevant tomorrow. Great values help distinguish these things. For you to know that what is truly important is there. The third one is, does this build trust or weaken it? You must know that trust is one of the life's greatest currency that I've seen. It is earned slowly. It is lost quickly. You can lost it very quickly, but you can earn it very slowly. And it is recovered very painfully. So every decision either strengthens or weakens the trust others placed in you. So I want you to choose accordingly. The fourth one is that, am I choosing from conviction or from fear? Fear often disguises itself as wisdom. No, it whispers, stay comfortable to you. Don't risk failure. Keep everyone happy. Conviction sounds different. It says, choose what is right, even if it costs you. That's the truth. Growth really begins inside comfort. It does not happen inside comfort. And the fifth question is, if everyone live this way, if everyone live this way, will the world become really better? Will the world really become better? If everyone live this way, will the world become better? It's a question you need to ask yourself. This simple question really elevates those values beyond personal success. It reminds you that becoming isn't only about you, it's about humanity. It reminds you that it's about humanity. Let's pause for just a moment one more time. Now imagine your life is a documentary, not a highlighted reel, okay? Not careful edited moment. Everything, ordinary Tuesday, quiet Monday morning, late night conversation, moment when no one was watching, moment when no one applauded. Now imagine that documentary ended with one sentence. What sentence would describe your life? Will it say he paused comfort, he chased applause, the accumulated possession, or will he say he lived with integrity, she loved generously, they pursued wisdom every day? Whether you realize it or not, you are writing that final statement. The pen is in your hands. Today I don't want you to choose 15 values. I just want you to wrestle with 5. Not because they are really fashionable, but not because they really sound impressive, but because they are worthy of building a life that is worthy, that is excellent. Write down every value that comes to your mind: integrity, wisdom, compassion, excellence, courage, humility, justice, faithfulness, generosity, curiosity, responsibility, forgiveness, service, truth, patience, and the rest of them. As many as you can write. Now ask yourself a difficult question. If every other value disappears, which 5 would I refuse to lose? Those 5 should now become your compass. Everything else becomes secondary. I want you to have this your personal constitution. Nations have constitution, okay? Organizations have mission statements. Successful companies define their core values. Yet, many people don't have this. They don't have values. They live their entire life without ever writing down the principles that they refuse to compromise. So today, I want you to change that. Write your own personal constitution, not a list of ambition, but a declaration of conviction. Not what you hope to own, who you refuse to stop becoming. Because when your values are written, your decisions becomes really clearer. When your decisions become clearer, your life becomes more intentional, and intentional lives really drift away. We have gone really far and so deep. We have exploded where values really come from. We have uncovered how they quietly shape every decision. We have even begun building an internal compass that can guide a meaningful life. But one final question remains, perhaps the most important question of all. What kind of life is ultimately built by a person who consistently lives according to deeply held values? And that is what we're going to talk about now. And take note of this. Now your values becomes your choice becomes your habit becomes your character becomes your legacy. This is the final question I want you to look at. Imagine your life has come to its final chapter. Your work is finished, your voice has gone quiet, the meetings have ended, the achievement has been recorded, the awards have been gathered dust, the money has been spent, the applause has faded. Now imagine that everyone whose life was touched by yours gathered together, not to discuss what you own, not to admire the titles you accumulated, but to count how many followers, that you had. But instead, they answer one simple question: what kind of person was this? Notice something, please. That at the end of life, people doesn't remember your resume. They don't remember your career. They remember just your character. They remember what they felt safe with you, whether they trusted you, whether you kept to your word, whether you were generous, whether you listened, whether your presence made others better. In other words, they remember your values, because values are, always outlive achievement. This is the greatest investment you will ever make today. I've seen that most people spend their life investing in things that eventually disappear. Money can be lost, businesses, technology, and so on, beauty, strength, and so on. But there is one investment that I appreciate for the rest of your life, and that investment is in your character. No one can steal integrity. No market can crash it or can destroy wisdom. No reception can bankrupt compassion. No political system can legislate away courage. No algorithm can replace humility. These are the treasures that become more valuable with time. And the greatest return on investment is not finance. It is personal transformation. The world needs something from every one of us. The world needs something from every one of us. We might not know about it. Every generation inherits remarkable opportunities, but it also inherits enormous challenges. We live in a world with more information than any generation before us, yet confusion is increasing. We have more ways to communicate, yet loneliness continues to grow. We are more connected digitally, yet many people feel deeply disconnected relationally. Technology has advanced faster than character. Knowledge has expanded faster than wisdom. Innovation has accelerated faster than integrity. But the solution to this will not come from technology alone. It will come from people. People whose internal life are as developed as their outer success. People who value truth when deception is profitable. People who chose compassion when decisions or indifferences is easier. People who pursue humility even after achieving success. The future is not ultimately shaped by better tools. It is shaped by better human beings. And this is actually what the becoming is all about. Not creating impressive people, but creating whole people. Alright, before you try to change your family, look in the mirror, please. Before you try to change your workplace, look in the mirror. Before you try to change your community, look in the mirror. Every meaningful transformation begins with one courageous decision. I will become the kind of person the world needs. Not someday, but today. Because the influence doesn't begin with leadership. Influence begins with example. Someone is actually learning something from your life. Is that a child, a friend, a colleague, a sibling, a neighbor? And you've never met them sometimes, or you've met them but you don't know. You are teaching them something every day. You are teaching them. So the question is that what curriculum is your life delivering? I want us to have this challenge. For the next 7 days, I want you to conduct an experiment on yourself. Not with someone else, but with yourself. Each evening, ask these questions before you go to sleep. Did my choice today reflect my value? Where did I compromise? Where did I remain faithful? Which decision made me more like the person I want to become? Then write one sentence, just one. Not about what you want to accomplish, but about who you become that very day. If you do this consistently, you begin to notice something extraordinary about your life. You stop measuring success by just productivity, but you begin to measure success by formation, and formation will change everything. I want you to also build your personal statements. Now it is time for you to build your compass. Not a list copied from the book, not values borrowed from parents, not ideas borrowed from culture, but your own. Begin with these questions. What kind of person do I admire? Not because of what they have achieved, but because of who they are, of who you are. You understand me? So, one thing is this: what principle would I refuse to compromise, even if no one applauded me? What do I want to experience whenever they encounter me? What do I want people to experience whenever they encounter me? Write them down. What value do I want my children, friends, colleagues, and community to inherit from my life? Now reduce your list. Choose 5 each, not 15, just 5. 5 values that becomes your compass. Write a simple and a single statement explaining why each matters. Then identify one practical habit that will express each value this week. Remember, a value without a habit remains an aspiration. A value practiced repeatedly becomes character. And before we go to close, let's look at what we call the becoming moment. There's a beautiful truth that many people really discover too late, and life is not primarily about finding yourself. It's about forming yourself. Every conversation is forming you. Every book is forming you. Friendship is forming you. Relationship are forming you. Habits are forming you. Every piece of content you consume is quietly shaping your mind. So the question has never been whether you are becoming. You are. The question is, who are you becoming? Okay? And perhaps even deeper, who or what is shaping that becoming? Because every day you surrender your attention, you surrender a piece of your future. Choose wisely. That is just about the becoming moment we have. Now, let's go to the becoming declaration. I want you to stand wherever you are. Take a deep breath. Say these words slowly, not as empty repetition, but as a commitment. Say after me. Say, I refuse to drift through life without direction. I chose to build my life upon principles that endure when circumstances change. I chose integrity over covenants, wisdom over impulse, courage over fear, compassion over indifference, excellency over mediocrity, truth over deception, service over selfishness. I understand that my values shaped my choices. My choices shaped my habits. My habits shapes my character. My character shapes my legacy. Beginning today, I will intentionally become the person my value called me to be. This is my compass. This is my commitment. This is who I want to become. Wow. Now, in closing, let me say this. One day, somebody will tell you a story of your life. They may mention your achievement. They may remember your success. They may even celebrate your contribution. But beneath every story will be a deeper question. What kind of person were you? Long after, your possession has disappeared, everything has gone. The value you live will continue echoing through the lives you touch. I use this opportunity to applaud my mentor, Dr. Miles Morrow. Even at his death, his values are still echoing. So don't simply build a successful life, build a meaningful life. Don't simply chase significance. Become someone worthy of it. Because in the end, you don't build your future once. You build it every day through the values you choose to live by. You build them through the value you chose to live by. Thank you for joining me in this lesson of the becoming. And I want to see you in the next episode. Do have a wonderful time and a wonderful day.